Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya. Surya Koti Samaprabha. Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sarva Mangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadike. Sharanitrambake Devi Narayani Namostute. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Radha Krishnaya Namo Namaha. Shri Hanumanji Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namah Shivaya. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 16th of September 2025. I want to offer my prostrations to all the great sages and to Bhagavan residing in the heart of every single being. Today I want to explore another dimension. We're definitely going to get back to the Man Buddhi Chit Ahankar, the Antakarana, in the subsequent days. But there's another area that I just wanted to touch upon today, just for clarification so there's no confusion. There's two areas, in fact. One is about what I was saying yesterday regarding the relationship structures we have and the concept of non-entanglement and love. So non-entanglement with everybody on the outside plus love for all equals bhakti. So that is a form of bhakti. It is devotion to God in every person, that Bhagavan exists in every single person. But when we have love, or what we are calling love, but there is an internal binding process going on, then that love is getting distorted, and that will cause rebirth, or it can potentially cause a lot of attachment and diversion and engulfment into Maya. So that is a very clear distinction that needs to be, it needs to be understood. It has to be understood very clearly. Well, it's very hard many times, because when we say, well, we have people that we're with, we are continuing to have interactions with others, how can we be non-entangled? We can interact without entanglement. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. It is definitely possible by placing the action in the light of Bhagavan, in the divine light. Then it is possible. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Otherwise, the binding process will be very, very fast. The power of Maya is to bind the Jivatma really, really quickly. Essentially, until we are in that more evolved state, there is a constant binding that continues. Every action continues to bind the Jivatma, right? But we can say that I am a mukta, I am a liberated being. I'm not bound to anybody, anything. That doesn't mean we don't love everyone. It doesn't mean we don't do our duties with affection and care. All of that is done, but it is done without binding. It is done without binding and trauma and trouble and all of those kinds of things that are so deeply ingrained. I'll give you a simple example. We know this very well. Take family life. We all have family life. Something happens to some family member, God forbid, some problem, some difficulty, any kind. Maybe it's an academic problem, a physical problem, some relationship issue, some friendship issue, something happens somewhere, some issue, and we get very disturbed, right? Why this is that? Obviously, there's a place for duty to take care of that. But if that same issue was happening to some unknown person 10 houses down the street, and if you don't know the person at all, it's, oh, that's too bad, that's so sad, we'll do some prayer. It doesn't affect us, right? We say, well, of course this doesn't affect us. It's not mine. That person is not mine. This person is mine. Wohi agnane. Nobody's ours. This is the problem. We think that somebody's ours. We think this body is ours. Body bhi hamara nahi hai. Mind is also not ours. It has been granted by Paramatma for some purpose to experience this world of Prakriti. But so does that mean we don't do our duties? Of course not. We do our duties very well, with love, with affection, with care, with tenderness, with sensitivity, but not with any sense of attachment. Then that is Jivan Mukta. Yes, just as the unknown person that we don't seem to have any attachment towards that. The same feeling comes for all the close people to us. There's no intra-psychic binding towards anybody. That is called Jivan Mukta. Yes, there is a natural flow of affection and care and duty, but there's rising above binding. The binding aspect of Maya is gone, completely gone in a Jivan Mukta. This is not something most people talk about. And sometimes they don't know how to talk about it also, because how do you talk about something like this? How is it that Sachin or any of us are to live with our family without binding? Is it possible? Yes, of course. It's possible, and this is where the sadhana comes into the picture of sitting in front of the murti of Paramatma with a mala, jap mala, Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Sri Krishna Tvam Gatir Mama, Narayana Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, Prabhu Aap Satya Hai. That conviction comes intensely that you are real. You are real, and you are the only tattva that is real. That's very interesting. This is where the ahankar is no longer bound in the ownership that this is mine, these people are mine, these objects are mine. Yeah, functionally, interactionally, Vyavarika Satyam, in that sense, yes, no doubt. Obviously, because that is the way the world is structured, and our personality mind is developed that way. There is a place for ego, which we have talked about before. But that does not mean that the ego gets into a binding function. It doesn't have to get into a bound function. It usually does, but it doesn't have to. Why does it have to? You see, that's the interesting part about the ego. The ego has a paradoxical role. It has a paradoxical role because in the one hand, it is absolutely necessary to live in the world, with the people of the world, with our names, with our education, with our certain level of competition, certain level of gradation that is there. It's all there. That is the relative world. Obviously, there is a financial hierarchy, there is a class hierarchy, there is a family hierarchy. That is all based on ego. It is all based on a functional ego to large extent, because a child is not born independent. A child is born dependent inside a family, inside a community, totally dependent. And then the child eventually gains independence. So there's a hierarchical structure. Isn't it so? The entire material world is a hierarchical structure. One species' survival is dependent on another species' death. Jiva jivasya jivanam. Isn't it so? We cannot eat non-living material. We have to eat something living that has been killed, whether it's a plant or a fruit or whatever it is, or an animal, doesn't matter. It matters in that sense, but it has to be something living. Jiva jivasya jivanam. This is the prison of the material world. The Jivan Mukta wants out of this jail permanently. One species dependent on another. Animals living in fear. Somebody's going to kill them. They're living constantly in fear. Every animal, every bug, every being lives in fear. इसमें किस प्रकार का आनंद है? इसीलिए निर्धार करना, इन गुजराती में से निर्धार करवो कि फरीથી સંસારમાં આવવું નથી. We don't ever want to come back inside the sansar under any circumstances, not for any reason, not for anybody, not for anything. And that kind of conviction is necessary for Jivan Mukta. Yes, if Bhagwan sends the Bhakta, that's one, wo ek alag baat hai. That's a different matter. When God sends a devotee by the divine will, they don't get bound here. They do their work and they're out from here. That's it. It's a jail. This material world is a prison. Understand this very, very, very clearly. It is an absolute top to bottom prison. It is a prison for the Jivatma, and the Jivatma is stuck for millions of lifetimes inside this jail. Not thousands, millions. Millions upon millions upon millions of rebirths upon rebirths, and has never found a way out. Think about this point. This is why all the acharyas, they come here again and again and again to awaken the Jivatma. Now, to understand this is not easy. It's not easy by any standard, but it requires a tremendous amount of devotion to Bhagavan and the faith in the Shastra that Punarjanma is there. Millions of life forms are there. Srimad Bhagavatam, 8.4 million species are there. Ye Shraddha ki baatein, also from taxonomy and from the natural sciences, we know this. The Jivatma is real. The Jivatma is stuck inside life and death, life and death, life and death. So these are the basic points. If we accept these, if the Shraddha is there that this is so, then one becomes awakened. My God, ye aisa hai? That I am stuck inside this madness for millions of lifetimes? How many parents have we had? Millions. Millions. We don't know even. We don't remember. The Mahamaya as such, she makes us forget so that we can get another chance and another chance and another chance. This is where, since we're talking about Jivan Mukta is a being who realizes the extraordinary binding in the sansar. कौन बंधन में नहीं है? किस जीवात्मा बंधन में नहीं? Everybody is bound, trapped, bound, trapped, and crushed inside the sansar. Three things. Bound is one thing, then trapped is another, and crushed is another. Totally crushed inside the sansar. ऐसी बात है ये संसार की दावानल. There's a beautiful in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. I'll show it to you, the Guru Stuti, and it begins with that this entire sansar is a burning forest fire. We don't realize this. My God, aisa hai? Look at the nature a little bit closely. Look at it a little bit closely. What do we see? One being trying to kill another. That's all that is going on out there. What else is going on? Look at the bugs and the ants and insects and the trees and all that. Even the bugs are living inside the tree, trying to destroy the tree. And all that. Kitna? Ye kya hai sab? Who wants to be part of any of this anymore? And look at the human civilization. Isme bhi kitna anant prakar ka bandhan hai. Rag, dvesh, aham, mamatva, klesh, wars, problems, court cases, this, that. Chalta hi hai. Endless number of desires through the body. अंत ही नहीं आता इसका. ऐसे लोग मर जाते हैं. They die like this without having realized anything. So the point is, with all of this understanding, recognize that I want to be unbound completely. Nothing else will do. We want 100% Jivan Mukti. Nothing else will do at all. That Nishta. That is called Swarup Nishta, Brahma Nishta. And with that intense conviction, Bhagwan ki bhakti hoti hai. Then actually, it is only these individuals who can bless the world. Then the world is blessed. It is not an escape from the sansar. It is not an escape, but one is no longer stuck inside the entanglements of the sansar. Entanglements of the material condition. That's the difference. That's a very big difference. So when Jivan Muktas are present, they become a doorway for millions of people, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions to come out of the prison. This is written in the Bhagavatam. Prasangamajaram pashmatmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu shukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam. Mokshadvaram apavrutam. The doorway into mukti opens up by recognizing the great sthiti of the great sages. This is how the Jivan Mukta state is obtained. Jivan Mukta sthiti bahut uppar ki sthiti hai. Why is that? Because there is no entanglement with anything, not with any object, not with any person, not with any situation, not with anything inside this sansar. Zero bandhan. That is called Jivan Mukta. But in that Jivan Mukta state, there is simultaneously Karuna, Daya, Shama, Shanti, Krupa for all, serving all. It is a state of seva, not ego and ahankar. It is 100% state of sevan. Seva meaning service. Yes, the Jivan Muktas are only in a state of service. They are not in any kind of egotistical state at all. Can we live that way in this world? Yes, it is possible. When we approach anything close to Jivan Mukta, we'll be able to see by the grace of Bhagavan all of the binding of the sansar. तो संसार का बंधन हम देख सकते हैं. संसार का बंधन क्या है? असंख्य प्रकार का बंधन है. Endless types of bondages are there. And we can see them all. You see them. That is the play of Prakriti. And very few are going to blossom out of that. Very few. How many people get chance to come out of the prison of Maya? You say everybody can come out of it. But people don't come out of it because they don't know that they're in the prison of Maya. वो ज्ञान ही नहीं है कि बंधन क्या है. ये काम, क्रोध, लोभ, मोह, मत्सर, all these things, ये सब बंधन है. It's a tremendous binding. Right? So when we realize this, then one step, one day at a time, that intensified connection with Bhagavan, that is the entire ball game. That is the whole point, that the connection gets solidified further, further, further. The solidification of the connection is what leads to, eventually it leads to the shattering of the bondages inside the heart. Chindante hridaya granthi chindante sarva samshaya. The Upanishad is showing us this point. You know, that when the heart knot is broken, every single type of samshay, meaning doubt, is removed. This is a beautiful path. It is a path where there is ananda. There is the opening of the doorway into ananda. When we get a glimpse of ananda, it is not part of the three gunas of Maya. It is not part of that. In fact, the greatest love exists for every single being. There is no sense that these few people are mine. वो निकल जाता है. कितनी difficult बात है. You think that just goes away? No way. It doesn't go away. It doesn't even go away among all the sadhus. They might leave the home. They might go to the forest. They might go to monasteries. They might go to a sant ashram. They might go wherever. But it still props up from the heart. It happens, right? Somebody leaves their family home to become a sadhu somewhere in some organization. Sadhu or sadhvi. Give it 6 months. Give it 1 year. At night time, what will happen in the dreams? Family members will show up. Your mother will show up. Father will show up. Other people will show up. That you have left. Once you leave, when a person lets go physically, it catches you internally. That is the difference between tyaga and vairagya. You can let go. People try to run away, but it still is living inside. So that is not really an advisable path. There might be some special individuals who are doing some special sadhana. For all of us, we're living with everybody. So to live with everybody with love and affection, without bringing inside the obstacles, difficulties, issues, problems, all that of others inside. So someone will say, what about in close relationships? Close relationship means love only. It doesn't mean internalizing the other person's problem. It's being sensitive, doing duty with a lot of affection and care, not internalization. It's very difficult. Even to explain this is very difficult, to understand it is even more difficult, and to apply it is extraordinarily difficult. Itna hard hai ye. I mean, I remember, I'll share with you my own example. When we were growing up, we used to have birds, these parakeet birds. We used to have them, for many years. They would come and then when you bring other ones in after they become old and all that, or they pass away, whatever. And then after some point, we didn't have them anymore for many years. But because of we grew up with that, the emotional loving and attachments and for those birds and all that. From time to time, in my own experience, in the past, not anymore, thank God, but in the past, in the dream, some birds will show up. Like you're sitting in the home and the cage is there, just like if you're actually there, because that desire is still there for that. I have experienced this myself. It's a pakshi ki baat hai. And if that is remembered, the next birth will be straight into the bird yoni. That's a danger. So when that happened in my case, बहुत प्रार्थना की थी भगवान को, ये सब निकाल दे जो, get this out. Don't want any of this smriti because it's deeply ingrained. We don't even realize the depth of these attachments. It is so internally situated inside the depth of the mind. It shows up at night time, and that's the barometer. Anything other than God that shows up at night time is an attachment. Think about it. Kitni difficult baat hai if you look at it. In one sense, it's extremely difficult. But there is another way. Jivan mukta, med mukta hu. Stay with this belief. Under no circumstances to let that go and continue the connection, heightened connection with Bhagavan. And He will remove all of the ignorance, all of the attachments and the blockages. Everything will be removed by Krupa. Ye Krupa ka marg hai. I'm telling you, my own experience with this, I could not believe that. It was like some 7-8 years later, that I had this, several times I had that experience. That I'm in the kitchen at my mother and father's home and there are birds flying just like the ones we used to have. And I say, ye sab kya hai? What is this? Where did this come from? Kitni vichitra baat hai. You start, even it's been 7-8 years, somewhere the seed of that, I liked it, I want that. The attachment for those birds. That will, and if that remains, if that thing is inside the heart, based on the cumulative consciousness, and I want that experience, or Bhagavan kehte, you like that so much, I'll make you a bird. Think about this, how dangerous this is. Kitna danger hai attachment, entangled attachment. The Akhyan is there in the Bhagavatam. Bharat Jinu Chamatkari Akhyan. I'll tell you the story. You might be familiar with this, but I'll tell it again. Because it's important for all of us to remember. This is referenced in Vachanamrut also. So Bharat Ji is not the Ramchandra Ji's son, but the Bharat Raja who was there. From his name, only this Bharat name has come. He was a great king, amazing king. Very awakened, very enlightened, very, deeply spiritual. Eventually, he said, work is done, everything is done. He left, went into the forest, built a small meditation hut, kuti, and he started doing his meditation. He probably had some gurus and all that, taught him how to do everything. He's deeply absorbed in the highest of consciousness, because that's at some point that the kings would also go to the forest. Not all of them, but many of them would do so. This was the tradition. They would do their worldly duties and bahut ho gaya. Experience the sansar, abhi Brahma Vidya प्राप्त करनी है, अखंड ध्यान करना है on the Brahman. So then in his situation, what happened? A small dove came, a baby deer. A small dove. And then as a duty, yes, he actually fed it and took care of it and everything. But then he started keeping that dove with him. He left the whole kingdom, got attached to the dove. Small deer got attached to the dove and then started to think about that. And then when he's doing his ध्यान में वही आ रहा था, that baby deer would come inside the mind. He should have left it alone and let it go in its own direction, but he kept it with him. He said no, because you're meditating by yourself. The nature of attachment, to be bound, mind wants to be bound somewhere. This is why great acharyas have said in the Bhakti Sampradaya, Bhagwan ka swarup hai, Bhagwan ki murti hai, Bhagwan ke sant hai, satsang hai, isme bind ho jana. Be attached there. No problem. Or bhakto may be, not personally with anybody. As devotees, as bhaktas, up to that point only. Don't get into people's personal lives, as I mentioned yesterday. It'll cause a lot of trouble. Stay away from that as much as possible. Right? So, look at what happened with Bharatji. He was very evolved. but his mind, his attachments grew. His asakti, isko kehte hai. Entanglement into that deer body. When he left his body, the next birth was a deer body. This is written in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ante yamati sagati. And then he was born into a deer body. And then after he was still aware of what had happened. When that body was gone, the deer body was gone, he was born again as Jad Bharat. He deliberately had to find a way out of this entanglement. So he acted as if he was a mad person. See the problem that one deer caused. एक मृग के कारणे भरत धर्यो 3 अवतार. ये जीवन मुक्ति की बात हम कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत ऊपर की बात है. It is something extraordinary. One single binding towards anybody in this sansar will cause rebirth upon rebirth. That's how tricky this is. You see, so then that happened in Bharatji's life. Then the third life was Jad Bharat, and he was a fully awakened saint. And then it is written this way in Swaminarayan Sampradaya that same Jad Bharat was then born as Nishkulanand Swami. And Nishkulanand Swami has stated that he remembers these past 3 lives. ऐसी बात है ये. कितना danger है इसमें. From the mind, every single attachment towards every single person and object, attachment meaning entanglement, has to be burned away, literally burned away. That is called Jnana Agni, Jnana Agni. It doesn't mean physical burning. It means internally burning it out. That this is not even real. What is real is Atman. भगवान, भगवान का विग्रह, भगवान का स्वरूप, भगवान का मंत्र, भगवान के स्तोत्र, भगवान की भक्ति. And that same Paramatma is existing in all. If that Bharatji had said, yes, the Lord is existing in the deer, usko namaskar karo, uski seva karo, let it go. No issue, no issue. We don't do that. We are so stuck in people's lives. It's unbelievable. Why we should be stuck this way? This is our ahankar, ye agnan hai. I'm using my own example. Forget about anybody else. I have to see myself. And you have to work on it from inside. I remember, as I mentioned to you before, my father was the father of this body. When he was in the hospital, 4 or 5 days he was there and hooked up to 60 tubes and all that kind of stuff was going on. And then eventually, he passed away and all. But the attachments, the memories, the missing of the person. So, बहुत प्रार्थना की थी भगवान को, संतों को, ये सब we respect and love and everything is there, but there's no attachment towards the memories. Memories are there, leave them alone. There's no sense that this person is mine. Not at all. The moment Sachin feels this particular person is mine and that person is gone and I'm sad and I'm this and I can be stuck. People are depressed. It's called bereavement. Somebody passes away, they're depressed for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes they cannot come out of that depression. See the binding power of Maya, and they're stuck. And they're stuck with that Jivatma. Wherever that Jivatma went, you'll wind up with that person. Lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. छोड़ दो ये सब बात. इसको जीवन में सीधी बात कर रहे. ऐसी बात, people don't talk about these things. Even the big expounders of spirituality, they're not going to tell you this direct truth, because people, whatever the reasons, I don't want to go into that. Sachin has no आगे no पीछे, किसी के पास से कुछ नहीं चाहिए. जो सत्य बात है वो ही आपको बताते हैं. Actually what it is, reality, no dilution, no obfuscation. सत्य है वो सत्य ही है. Not because of Sachin. Every such shastra, Bhagwan Krishna again and again says in the Gita, you keep attention on me. You don't keep attention on anything other than me and what I'm asking you to do. He tells Arjun. And he's telling all of us, you don't keep it, you do your duty and you keep attention on me. Me is not any ego, that is the Paramatma Tattva, Brahma Tattva. किसकी हिम्मत है करने के लिए? I want to know that. Sachin wants to know. मैं आपको I'll do 1,000 prostrations to you if you have that courage. You or anybody else in this sansar has the courage to do this. Who has that courage? बताओ, एक भी व्यक्ति को बताओ. This is why भगवान शंकराचार्य जी कहते हैं दुर्लभम त्रयमेव तद देवानुग्रह हेतुकम मनुष्यत्वम मुमुक्षुत्वम महापुरुष संश्रय। महापुरुष कौन है? इसको महापुरुष कहते हैं जिसको इस स्थिति प्राप्त हो गई है। It doesn't mean one is careless or anything. Don't misunderstand. Absolutely the right duty is done. It is done with the extraordinary love, with absolutely zero entanglement. That is the mixture of Jivan Mukta Sthiti and Prema Bhakti. किसकी ताकत है? किसके in the Gujarati we say કોની અંદર આવું ખપ જાગૃત થયું છે? મુમુક્ષત્વમ, તીવ્ર મુમુક્ષત્વમ. Who has this courage? શુરવીરપણું बताइए. एक भी व्यक्ति बताइए. And even those who are trying to do it, how long they can sustain? The mind will dive straight back into the mud of the sansar. जीवन मुक्त स्थिति ऐसी नहीं आती. There's nothing equal to this स्थिति. इस स्थिति का इक्वल में कोई नहीं है. There's nothing, nowhere, anywhere in the spiritual path anything is equal to that. बंधन अनंत प्रकार के बंधन है, पर जिसको मुक्त होना है हो सकते हैं. It's actually quite straightforward. Do not deflect from the love for Paramatma. And that's it. It's actually only 2 steps. Love for Paramatma, and that same Paramatma is present everywhere. That's it. That's all there is to it. There's nothing more than that. अखंड प्रेम की धारा भगवान के तरफ, और वो सेम तत्व आत्मा और परमात्मा is in everyone. And then automatically everything comes. Saintly qualities comes, non-attachment comes, seva comes, the right actions comes, relative understanding, relative versus absolute comes, everything comes. And then one lives inside that great anandam, doing the same activities, not wasting time, recognizing the play of Maya, recognizing the evolution out of Maya. Ananda prakar ka gnyan aa jata hai. Gnyan, Vairagya, Dharma, everything comes so beautifully. So we have a choice. I'm saying it again. Millions of lifetimes, God knows where that will go, or in this lifetime, pura kar dena. We have a choice. In this lifetime, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavanam Prapadete, that Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, that Mahatma doesn't mean with beard and with all those external things. Each one of us can be Mahatma, not because of somebody saying, giving some certificate. Antar ka vaibhav. It opens up so tremendously. It is a strength that is beyond imagination. Kam, Krodh, Lobh are gone. Energy damage is gone. Entanglements are gone. तो क्या रहेगा? अनंत शक्ति. हाँ, अनंत शक्ति, दिव्यता. And that Shakti is Bhakti. Real love opens up. Something extraordinary opens up. But you will notice how deep these roots are of vasanas and attachments. Something will prop up somewhere. If it props up at night time, Bhagwan ko prarthana. More mantra sadhana. Namah Shivaya mantra, Namah Shivaya mantra. Do 11 malas, do 21 malas, 1000 malas if it's necessary. In Vachanamrut mein likha hai, Shriji Maharaj, वो क्या कहते हैं? He says it so beautifully. Through 1 shloka, 2 shlokas, 5 shlokas, 100 shlokas, or 1000 shlokas, get this separation clear inside the mind. What is the Atman and what is not the Atman? Atma Anatmana Viveknu Vachanamrut. Sarangpur, it's one of the Sarangpur Vachanamruts. क्या बात है. And Sachin is only speaking for Sachin as a seva sharing with all of you. He's not telling anybody anything. Sachin has no authority to tell anybody anything. ये जो सत्य बात जो शास्त्रों में है, संतों में है, the Sanatan Dharma 10,000 year history, it is being extracted and presented to the world. Whoever can grasp that, if you grasp these ideas, the Mukta Sthiti is awaiting. It's just right available for us. It's nothing hard. It seems extremely hard. What's so hard about it? Bhagwan ko achal pratna karna. You know, when we pray to God, yes, we want to pray for no obstacles and we want to pray for material things. You can pray for everything, no problem. But we ask Paramatma to release us. If Sachin, if and when this person who is speaking asks Bhagwan or Bhagwan ke Sant, unko hum, when we ask them to release the Jivatma from Maya, and if Sachin wants 100% release, he will release. Why he will not release? Bhagwan is ready to release. The Mahamaya, Mahashakti, she says, you want to be released from my clutches? No problem. But if you want something other than that, why the goddess Devi Mahashakti, why she should release anybody? She's not going to release anybody. Impossible. Because you don't want to be released. Why she should release anybody? It's very simple. Mukti kisko milti hai? Jisko Bhagvat prasannata chahiye. That's all. Mukti, and even the great devotees don't even think about mukti also. They're only in love. That is even a higher state of realization. So these are things to keep in mind. And it requires, look, to be I'm just being very frank and open with you all. Ye jo mala hai na, mala rakhna. Keep it with you always, in your pocket, in your purse, somewhere nearby. When the free time comes, Namah Shivaya mantra. Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundaya Viche, wo mantra. Radhe 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 mantra. Radha Krishna ka mantra. Hare Krishna ka mantra. Aapko jo mantra prasanna hai, karo. Don't let it go. That's the only thing that's going to come with us when this body's time comes to go. Nobody's going to come with us. I was there when the father of this body passed away. It's the first time I actually saw anybody actually pass away in front of me. We'd seen on TV shows and all that. He didn't take anything with him, not even his clothes, nothing, not clothes, not wallet, keys. I had to actually pick up his materials later on. They put it in a bag. It's the greatest teaching in life. Every human being is just standing in line to go to the crematory or to the grave. It's just standing in line. That's all it is. Every human being is standing in line. Visualize this. इसमें से वैराग्य आता है, इसमें से ज्ञान आता है, इसमें से भक्ति आती है, इसमें से धर्म आता है, इसमें से राग द्वेष छूट जाता है. When we visualize every human being is standing just in line to be turned to dust. Ashes to ashes, turn to dust. Thou shalt return, the Bible says. ये सत्य बात है, इसमें घबराना नहीं. Don't be afraid of anything. भगवान का पूर्ण आश्रय. 100% Sharanagati, Sharanam, Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Sharanam means 100% refuge with conviction, with Nishta, with Shraddha towards one's Ishtadev. क्या नहीं हो सकता? इसमें से अपार बल की प्राप्ति होती है, शांति मिलती है. And all of the beautiful ways of living life, everything flowers beautifully. We still live our ordinary life, but with an extraordinary, evolved, mukta state. That is the difference. Let's stop here for now. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Ganganapade Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Deva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Dhyanamulam Guru Murti Mantramulam Guru Vakyam Pujamulam Guru Padam Mokshamulam Guru Kripatameva Mata Chipitatameva तमेव बंधुश्च सखा तमेव विद्या द्रविणम तमेव सर्वं मम देव. ओम नमो नारायणाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय. श्री सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः. ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डायै विच्चे स्वाहा. दुर्गे दुर्गे रक्षिणी ठ ठ स्वाहा. श्री दुर्गार्पणमस्तु. ओम ह्रीं स्वाहा.